Okay, well, welcome to this iteration of Serious Games. Right, so I'm glad you're all here, so on time and so on. And in fact, you were here before me. So last year I had the opposite experience. I need to wait for 1 week for everyone to show up finally. My name is Christopher Franz. I'm teaching in the Department of Computer Science on the bachelor and the master degree in the Master of Applied Science, to which most of you are signed up, I believe. Some of you perhaps not. The course I'm teaching here is Serious Games, Introduction to Serious Games, because it aligns well with our kind of focus on teaching of games, in the bachelor in particular, and the seriousness of real life that we're teaching in the master. So, and you'll see how we bring this both together. But before I start providing a bit more introduction of what the course is about, I just want to get a feel of which course and degrees you come from. Are you all Max students? Max? No Max? Okay. Which degree are you coming from?
You have interaction design.
Interaction design, yeah. Mixed, is it? Master of Interaction Design? Yeah, cool. Who else? Any other degree or specialization I want to learn about? Because that's my first, yes. I solicited other students from different master degrees, please.
I think all Max students are supposed to be here. We don't have any option for elective.
That's nice, right? So you make a course optional, right? Then you don't provide any option. Then de facto course becomes compulsory. Yes. Yes. It's not my doing, but I benefit from it, I guess. You know, so I can claim yes, I solicited about 15 students, so it's brilliant. Sorry for that. Such is life. Yes. I think there may be issues. Like I think it's partially down to the color imaging limitation that we have this semester. I think it's run next semester, so you can pick it then as an alternative option. Cool, thank you very much. As you have noticed, I'm mostly speaking English. I can try a bit of Norwegian. First of all, it's an embarrassment for me, especially if it's on the stream. Second of all, we have a lot of international students, so that's why on the Masters we generally conduct the courses in English and also the discussion. But also the literature is predominantly in English simply, and it just makes sense to follow this terminology. So on those grounds, my apologies. All right, Serious Games. So this week I'll just provide you a rundown what the course is probably about, or what the course will be about. I'm not going to specific topics at this stage, because I'm slightly in the fear that there may be one or another phase appear next week, and I need to repeat myself. So I rather want to give you impression. And now, since you highlighted this is the only option, it would have only also be an opportunity to pull out of the course if you feel like, oh, that's not what I wanted to sign up for. Right? So, thanks for highlighting this. So no option there, but really I still want to get an idea what the course is about. So we're talking about serious games. What are serious games? Anyone? Intuitively? No definitions needed, please.
It's games for training or no longer entertainment.
Repeat the last bit, just for me.
No longer for entertainment.
Not only for entertainment, so what you say? Yeah, cool. Yeah. Any other definitions you have in mind? Who played a serious game before? Yeah. What kind of game?
Well, it was exercise.
Yeah, that's right. Nice. Okay, health, right? So there's different kind of themes, for example. Sorry?
First responding.
First responding. Okay, interesting. We probably need to talk about this in the course. So that's what we make the course largely about you, please.
Yeah. We had I used to work in a grocery store type of thing.
Yeah.
And we had these serious games that were complete shit, but we had them that were online, and they taught us how to place stuff in the store and then how to interact with customers.
Right.
We had these terrible motion captured animations of customers who are yelling at you and being not very nice.
Right.
And you had to respond with using text for chosen options.
Right.
It wasn't great, but it was a serious game.
Okay, it was a serious game. So your first impression of serious games is average, to say the least.
That's just the
specific.
Yeah, I did my bachelor's in games, so.
Oh really?
Yeah, or in the animation and 3D part of it.
Nice.
So my impression of serious games is good, but actually using it in practically,
Yeah.
it wasn't that
Well,
good.
that's the average, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. Please.
I haven't tried to finish one, but I tried a prototype with some friends of mine who
Nice.
studied game design here at Gjøvik.
Yeah.
And they were on the news. They made like a wheelchair simulator.
Ah, yeah.
If you
I remember
remember
them. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I remember the bachelors. Yeah.
So half of them made like a serious game,
Mhm.
training, and the other half made a fun game, which we're trying to get on Steam.
Yeah.
So I play tested a lot for them.
Nice, brilliant. Yeah, that's a nice example. So there's an ample example of serious games, right? And it's really the probably you figured out that the boundaries are really fuzzy sometimes, right? So because what can be entertaining for some people may be serious, non-entertaining for others, right? So there's this fuzzy boundary here. So yeah, any other experiences you guys had?
I did the training for Universal Robots.
Universal Robots.
The robot arm.
Ah, I see. Yeah, okay. Right.
That's like the idea.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. So that's brilliant. I mean, we have a lot of people that actually have practical experience with serious games already. And I would be more than inclined to see how you can bring this into the class environment because, well, it looks like that is a kind of a lecture-only course in which I talk. Well, surprise, surprise. In the masters, we do it the other way around. Most of the time, you are talking, right? So some of you got some of the taste already last semester in other courses. But so it's similar in this course as well that you kind of contribute to the class and share your experience, but also perhaps first-hand experience, but also become kind of responsible for certain areas of serious games in terms of understanding literature and clarifying them for us. So wow, okay, quite a breadth of experience. So last year we didn't have this. Also this year we have roughly double the participants. So I need to. That's why my description of the course is rather scarce, because we probably need to change the rules of the game this year. So that's why I wanted to meet you guys first before I make up my mind as to what we're doing in this course, not what we're doing, what you are doing in particular. But just to, is there anyone else who wants to say something about serious games, their experiences, or their expectations about serious games? That's probably better. Tell me what you think you were going to learn in this course, and I can see how I can either support your impression or destroy your illusion early on. Emphasis on the latter. No. Huh? What do you expect for serious games? Is it just because you don't have an option, or what's serious games?
I don't know, maybe
Whatever.
Developing some
Yeah.
mobile applications,
Cool.
like understanding concept of
Yeah.
how games are created or something.
Yeah. Good.
I don't know.
Yeah, but you do know, because you mentioned already 2 important points. How do you create them? What are the concepts that you need to know about in order to think about serious games, right? And you're talking about programming. Well, this course is called. How is this course called anyway? Give me a sec. Introduction to. That's the thing. Research in serious games, right? So we're not necessarily doing application development. We can. There's the option. I'll explicitly introduce this in this course. But primarily it's the idea to become expert on looking at it from a research perspective, because that's what you need to do in your masters, right? So eventually look at doing literature review on very interesting topics. I'm trying to stand it. Come on, give me. But interesting topics, and become expert in this area and critically discuss literature, right? Yes, there's options for conceptualizing and application development, but it's not in the foreground at this stage, right? So it's not a necessarily hands-on do course, but rather more understand the literature, the concept, and you can apply it, for example, towards the, for example, the integration courses and the other parallel courses you have in the masters, in particular, advanced project work. You can use those concepts. But that's one of the deliverables that we probably allow as well if people want to conceptualize something. But it's really about having the introduction to research, so that's in the foreground. Any other illusions I need to break at this stage?
Decision theory.
Sorry? Decision theory, interesting. Give me some prompter, decision theory.
I suppose it will be a little bit of something like AI learning here, so I could use it to get some theory about how the decisions are made, not necessarily not necessarily using it to some gamification.
I see. So you mean, yeah. So you're expecting a bit of AI? Good. Yeah, we can sneak that in. That's no problem. In fact, You can sneak that in. So it's also an option. One of the things that we're definitely talking about is related to AI. What's the foundation of AI? What's it fundamentally linked to? What's the core discipline that AI builds on?
Automation.
Yeah, but more generally, what does AI intend to represent and reflect? Algorithms, yeah. But what do those algorithms do? What do they model? What do they represent?
I don't know, learning, thinking.
There you go. And this whole learning, thinking thing is borrowed from where?
From us.
Who said human? Human is right. That's right. It's completely human-inspired computing, right? And so the whole area of AI is basically built on learning theories, in particular psychology, right? So we borrow a lot from there. How we learn is child development. I mean, that's literally how we teach some robots, right? How they actually learn from the bottom up new concepts in order to organize and behave independently, right? And so if you're saying AI, I'm saying psychology, because that's what we're talking about to some extent, how humans actually work, how they're motivated, and how they make decisions potentially as well. So it's intermittently linked. It's just, I think, two sides of the same coin that we're fundamentally looking at. So yeah, AI is in there, psychology is quite a bit in there. Any other points, prompters? Yeah?
On the psychology side, bringing gamification into service design.
Oh, service design, that's right. So that's something you guys need to contribute, because I know it's big in the IDEA, in the Department of Design. Good, yeah, thank you. So here's the thing, right? So service design, earmark those things, because those could be topics we could link, right? Gamification in service design, for example. Other points? I see there's some consultation going on, right? Everyone good? Okay, please.
I think maybe if I learn some of the research methodology or things that I would research about, and some of the gamification techniques, I could use it into designing when I go and when I work in companies or something like that.
Exactly. I hope that you can take a lot of those theories that you're hearing about and talking about and so on, and bring them back and even translate them to other courses in the degree already, but of course also in companies, right? Because more and more our applications are actually having design aspects in mind, particularly human-centered design, right? So then it's always about, okay, how do you keep people engaged, right? How do you make at least the form appealing, but in best case, how they actually continuously interact with the application. So I hope that there is this opportunity, right? So it's the course doesn't stand on its own. It's really embedded in from to think about applications, to think about motivation more comprehensively. Motivation is one of the key terms in this course we're going to talk about. All right, how's this course structure? I think I have a fairly good overview of what you think about serious games, and then we'll see in how far we can satisfy this in the upcoming weeks, upcoming sessions. Well, fundamentally, the course, well, you probably saw the core content of the course. It's largely about some elements of game development, but then we're quickly shifting over to talk a bit about psychology, game design, to some extent technology. I'm a bit lean on this one, and the ethics and taxonomy of serious games, because there's quite some interesting examples of serious games we need to talk about and learn about. And while this looks like a long list of topics that would certainly cover our, what is it? I don't know, how many sessions do we have? 14, I believe. Well, many of them actually more or less taught or given by you, and that's where the concept of the course comes into play. So in this course, fundamentally, there's two aspects to it. On the one hand, well, you get for this course a portfolio mark at the end, right? So because that's what people are interested in, especially if the course is not optional. How do I get the highest possible mark out of this? And the portfolio mark is basically consists of an oral exam that you're holding individually at the end, but also two other components. One of them is your class contribution. And now, knowing that I have 16 people here, I will need to change the scheme a bit to before. In the last year, for example, we asked each student to pick a specialization area. So, and within this area, then discuss a few papers and actually perform a presentation to the class of this area in the form of a lecture. Because one thing you're not doing in the max at this stage is actually to learn how to teach to some extent, right? Which you can. But problem is we don't have enough lectures, we can't do it, right? So we need to change the scheme quite a bit. So the idea is to pair 2 of you guys up around a given topic and then provide you with papers, and you need to argue for or against a certain paper. That's one of the arguments that we have done in the past. So it's kind of a bit of a battle game, also gamifying the environment to some extent. In a sense, we're talking about a given topic. You need to lead the discussion for that topic or against, and the cast chips in, because everyone has to read the paper and the background work to it. So this way we learn about the topic because we all read the paper, and then we can critically discuss it in the class. This way we cover all our different categories that we are that is central to this class. So this is the collaborative presentation concept there. So that's part of your mark that you were getting. But the other one, and that's the painful one, you're writing a report. Damn. The report, right. And you're writing a report in IEEE format, 6 to 8 pages. Doesn't sound long, but did anyone hear about IEEE format before? Computer scientists, yeah. What do you know about this format? Any intuitions?
A little.
Okay. Right. So I just want to scare you away a bit, because this is incredibly dense. Even though it says 8 pages, if you look at it, it's actually more like 10 to 12 pages, probably, yeah, or 14. So what I want people there is please start writing early and often. So you need to write a report. You have an oral exam, and you have this class participation concept. Those are the 3 components that make up your final mark. It moved into one single mark, basically. Right? So just in case you're wondering, this is the concept we're talking about. In the upcoming weeks before that, however, I'll talk a bit about serious games more generally, what there are, certain categories, provide some examples, highlight the different areas of serious games. You guys highlighted some already, for example, in retail applications. So that was training, I think, right?
Yeah,
mostly?
that was training for like, it's actually like seasonal training. So every time you get like new products in, or when it's Christmas or whatever, then
Right.
you get these games that you have to go through.
Right, okay, that's interesting. So it's an ongoing scheme. There
Yeah,
is
it's
still-
something that like happens
Right.
all through the year.
Is that something that could be shared in a class setting or not? Like it's a proprietary? I'm
Could
streaming right now, by the way, I
ask,
didn't mention it.
but,
Right.
I could maybe send them an email and ask, but it's not very useful. So
Okay,
I'm not
okay,
sure how
okay.
much
So I
we
don't
can
want to. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to reinforce your moderate, put it softly, moderate experience, and necessarily force you to present it here. So I think it's an opportunity to do something else. But it's really interesting to learn about those things, because I only get those in closed class settings, because you have, a considerable number of you have worked already, and therefore quite some experience in terms of the concepts we're talking about. So this could be, of course, in English as well. Yes, so I'm talking about serious games, some concepts, some areas, core areas. I'm hoping to solicit and invite a talk by Runa in particular about educational principles. He's big on pedagogic på norsk, men what is it in English? Pedagogy. Anyway, like learning stuff, right? Learning theory. So he will talk about the principles of learning, because fundamentally serious games is about learning, right? So how do we make people learn? And he's pretty good at this. And so I hope he's joining us for a talk. And we're talking a bit about serious games in the context of health in particular. And then we're slowly handing over to you, because you will be choosing specialization areas that you want to pick. And we get there in the upcoming week. We'll start this process slowly. And then see who is doing what, because usually you have the experience that some people or multiple people are interested in the same area, so we need to carve and delineate clearly what people actually want to look at in more detail. So that will be a structure. For the first few weeks you can sit back and relax, but then it becomes a bit more interesting and a bit more challenging, and you're actually involved, right? So the course is meant to be quite lean. The idea is just that you constantly involved or engage with the course, and hopefully take something away from it. I'm streaming this, but I'm telling you, I'm not big on exams and all the assessment stuff. The key thing to take off the course is doing the participation, right? Sure, in the exam we'll ask you some questions about what we talked about, but what you really learn is the stuff that sticks, right? That's something that you take away beyond any exam you may have learned for, like other courses and so on, right? It's masters, so we rely on you being interested and motivated and willing to learn to some extent. So we're not just feeding you knowledge and then letting you go from this and testing you out. And I hope that this sets some motivational aspects. This course is streamed completely, subject to technological issues. I now need to declare this carefully because sometimes it doesn't work out, and then we're a bit in limbo. But of course, we accommodate this. If we can't stream and things don't work out, then we'll find a way around it. But generally, we're streaming, and the ones in Max will know how we do this. The ones that are joining us for the first time may not know this, but we actually have a from the Game Technology Lab. So that's basically primarily our bachelor lectures. We're streaming those directly. I hope my output is off. Yes. To the GTL channel, which is linked from the GitLab. So that's us right now here. And the sessions will then be archived in this playlist here subsequently, right? So you can always go back and review this carefully. Just to get some of the infrastructure out of the way. So basically, you're not required to show up, but that's the thing. How we do this. In the past, we had the idea of using Discord to allow remote participants to inject questions in real time. And we basically have someone, have a discussion going on. We're collecting the questions via Discord. You guys know Discord? Everyone? Mm-hmm. Good. Discord, hang on. Discord is like a chat system for gamers primarily. Bring it up briefly so you get an impression how it looks like. But the key advantage is it's relatively fast. It has this channel concept. It saves your messages indefinitely, unlike Slack, for example. And we'll have a one for serious games. I think it's here. There we go. Serious games. One channel. And this is where we will hold the discussion. So you can ask questions. We can bring them into the discussion and feedback. Only thing to be mindful about being involved in streams is they're just laggy. So you're about half a minute to a minute behind, right, until the discussion comes. So it's not really super interactive. I haven't found a better solution yet. The only thing that we have found, if people are remote and need to present, they can also do that either via Skype or via Discord. It allows this function as well. And that has worked quite well in the past. So we're trying to be as involving as possible, but of course there are always technological challenges that we are dealing with. So one thing I can declare you in advance is we're not using Blackboard. So that may sound scary to some, but it's a lot easier from our perspective because and you will learn why, because we're working in GitLab. GitLab is a collaborative project management tool primarily used for the purpose of software development, and the advantage there is that's incredibly open, because I will allow you to modify and edit the wiki, right? So if you want to change the course description, you can do that. Of course, you'll be penalized because you're not allowed to. But I can also track who's doing what. But the point is, there will be opportunities for you to contribute. If you find papers, you can post them there. You will do your submissions via the system as well, right? So I see it as a collaborative environment that we all, with goodwill, collectively foster. So if you go to this URL, please.
Can you send it out?
That's I could do. I send it out via Blackboard. That's a good idea. But for the ones that are electronically enabled right now, can you just try it out whether it works? It should ping you and ask you for being to be joined to that project.
Is it? Do we still have the logins from Prod 3?
Yes, everyone who was logged in GitLab before keeps their login, right? So there's no new login. Once you're logged in for a lifetime. Anyone else? There may be a wall and it asks you to register on a system. It's a system locally hosted at NTNU here. So you shouldn't need to be worried about privacy, at least if you're concerned that it's hosted elsewhere in some other country. No, it's hosted here downstairs in our basement in the R building by information security. And this is basically a platform we use. You will use that in mobile as well. If anyone takes the mobile course in Mariusz, he'll use the same system. We use it in most of our classes and courses. I'll briefly run you through the core features there. So this is the URL. I'll send it out. And what you'll see is something like this. That looks scary at first. But what you will be most interested in should be the wiki. The wiki is the starting point. That's where I disseminate all information. Well, mostly the static information. Here's what I just talked about briefly. I'll flesh this out a bit more because now I know how many people are here. Otherwise, I would have given you much more concrete instructions at this stage. The stream links are there. The Discord invite link is there. So if you click this one, you should get to this Discord application, right? There's no immediate hurry. If we don't figure it out until next week, it's really no harm. This is really more for like week 4 onwards and so on. But also for you to be involved and actually discuss. You can use that for your course discussion. Did you see this paper? Oh, I found a paper on serious games in health. Aren't you doing serious games in health and things like this, right? So it also should foster a discussion environment. And then there will be a schedule. And yes, so that's where my work starts. Deadlines. They are preliminary at this stage. I tend to run this course since I emphasize continuous contribution, so you're all kind of delivering throughout the course, more or less by presenting and contributing. I prefer to have deadlines reasonably early, so you have more space for other papers that have later deadlines. That has worked quite well in the past. If you see conflicts already, we can still negotiate this. This is part of the reason why you don't see exams in the official course description yet, because I haven't reported them out yet. So once we see it's prohibitive, for example, I had never anyone from mixed joining me, so I'm not sure if there's a conflict there. But the idea is in principle that this report, a preliminary version, is deliverable mid of April. To me, informally, I'll just give you feedback. So it's an opportunity to refine, to learn, because that's the idea here. We'll talk about this later in the course, because it's really about writing survey or overview papers. So not necessarily individual contributions, but how to survey an entire field. It's very important for the ones that are actually writing master thesis right now, learning this, how to do this comprehensively. And then there will be the final delivery, that will be beginning of May already, so just after lecture finish, pretty much. Again, give and take, we can negotiate it. And 1 week later, January, that's how I plan it, but we're 15 people, I think I'll be able to review this until then, but early to mid of May we'll have an oral exam. That is basically a 45 minutes to an hour long session with each of you. I think that's roughly, I need to look that up again. And then we have, one-to-one, so I can actually see were you participating in the course or just lucky to slip through. Okay. So, but generally that's not something that should scare anyone away. I'm a reasonably friendly person, that's number one. Number two, the topics are not, I'm not asking you rocket science questions anyway, and largely it's aspects that have been discussed in the class. So it should be very straightforward. So just to give you a heads up, right? So the whole course should ideally be done kind of mid of May. No? Yeah. Who wants later? August? No. Yeah. I can give you a 3 month learning period. That will not necessarily help you though. So that's the rough idea here. Just putting that forth. If there's issues already in the current arrangements in your schedules, let me know. Then we can accommodate it. Otherwise, I'll fix this probably next week or the week thereafter. So that's the main page. In addition to this wiki, which is again your go-to place, there's the central aspect that I will use quite a bit is issues. Of course, I'll send out the URL via Blackboard after the course, but after this session in particular. But the idea of issues. Is everyone acquainted with issue trackers? Or who's not, conversely? No. Good. Yeah. Cool. Right. But the developers are quite acquainted with this. So the idea, what are issue trackers about? Why am I answering all the questions, right? What are issue trackers about? Nikolai, come on.
Well, just to get an overview of what is supposed to be done, usually by several people. I don't know how it's for the class, but usually for a project, like you're going to do this, this is going to be next. So you have several tasks, basically.
That's correct.
That needs an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So fundamentally the idea is basically, I just highlight the overview. Traditionally in software development the idea is you have a software product and you working out from different perspectives as a team, right? From UI, backend, whatever else, right? You encounter issues, right? So, user login doesn't work if you use a special symbol, or doesn't work for Norse character, or whatever else, right? This kind of thing. Provide a detail of how it's actually solved. I mean, that's a much more formal way in software development of doing this. And then you clarify, hang on, who's responsible for this? Hang on, that's UI guy actually supposed to be doing it, so it's an issue for that person. And then it can be due dates attached to it, milestones, weights, means how much work it likely will be, but also labels. And this is a way of communicating and not forgetting information in a kind of team setting, in particular for software development. However, we can repurpose this for our course as well, right? The idea is here, that I will be using this quite a bit for our decision making. On the one hand, I'll send out announcement using this tool, and I'll show you how you get the announcements. On the second hand, we'll also use this to for you to indicate your preferences on serious games areas you want to discuss. So you're posting to this thing as well. Yeah, it's very important for both of us. The important point here is that we're using labels. So you put some title there, and we have different labels, and the labels will be decisive. So anything that's an announcement, well, surprise, surprise, it's an announcement. And a topic selection would be interesting for you later when you signal, okay, I want to work on this topic later down the course, and so on. Right? So we can introduce more of those labels. I just want to give you an overview. So those are the two main areas, the wiki and the issues, right? Then you see a list of issues over time. Issues can be open and then can be closed, right? So you have an issue. Once it's done, you say issue is closed, and it appears under closed issues. So it's still archived, but it's not in your view immediately. So we use this for communication. Again, the idea is subtly to reinforce principles from software development subtly that may not be applicable in all disciplines, but you can borrow a lot of those principles and see it in ticketing systems, for example, as well. So those are the fundamentals of the system. I just want to get communicated. What you need to do once you sign up to the system, right? Once you sign up to the system, be as close as possible to your real name. In the last year, I had the following problem that if people actually provided contributions, did submissions, I wasn't able to identify it's them because they used some funny names, I don't know, like Drunken Elk or something like this, and I had really no clue how to actually associate, because this system is not linked to NTNU. That's you're making a new account. I think you should use your NTNU email address. We don't force you, but take a name that gives me a gauge at who you are to some extent, please. So that would be really helpful. But diverting from this point is, in order to get notification, you will need to navigate to this issues labels and then click on subscribe for the corresponding label. Only then will you get emails when something new is posted. Yeah. So one time I do it once. I'll come back to that next week once you have hopefully all signed up. And we can weed out problems with signing up next week. Because when you sign up, you need to request access, and then it's me giving you manual access. So I need to monitor this, so there may be a bit of a delay until you actually have access to the system. So don't be disgruntled by this. But I think by next week you should be able to weed this out comprehensively. So that was the infrastructure I wanted to get to talk about. What other aspect do we need to cover? Other aspects you cover with the labels, the contents. Good. Yeah. So, okay. So those were the major points I wanted to make about GitLab. I think we didn't forget anything there. You have the link to Discord. So all the resources should be linked there. If you find any typos, links, questions, whatever, or you have questions to me, it may also be a good pointer to anyone else. Post an issue. Just use it. Right. So make use of the system. I know people are shy, but as soon as the first person posts something, that usually works out. So be the first. That's the idea. Okay. Right. So that's it from my side for basically the introduction of that, the infrastructure of the course. Again, we start officially next week, so then we have some content and some meaningful contributions, so we can ensure that by next week we have the infrastructure settled. You guys know where to look and what to wait for. What I'm interested now in already, just to gauge a feeling. So we have kind of, for the final submission, there's 3 types of submissions for the final report that we could entertain. One of them is to have an individual so I can kind of see 3 themes based on the class and the availability of topics. You will not be able to read this, just for me to know what I wrote. 3 types of deliverables in the report. Number 1, you can present an individual overview of a particular area. Number 2, you can work as a team on a report. So you are not, of course, not writing the same report, but the idea is then that you look at the same topic from different perspectives. Number 3, you're describing a concept, a development project. You're actually conceptualizing a serious games, right? looking at it right now, very, very superficially, no commitments asked, who would be, would like to see interest for the respective options to see how, which direction to take in this course. So who would feel more comfortable doing something individually, working on a topic, describing it, and so on. Number one, yeah, Tomasz, right else? Johanna, yeah, not sure yet. Who feels more like, I'm a team person? So basically, you write your own report, but you kind of do it in collaboration with someone else to some extent, because you need to look at the same topic from a slightly different perspective. Who feels more like a team person? Okay, team is good. Yeah, not sure, okay. Yeah. And who wants to do, there's more, yeah, come. Yeah. And the last one, who feels like, no, I want to do the classical software development kind of approach. Let me crunch and develop a serious game, or at least conceptualize a serious game. Of course. All right, okay. All right, how many people want to implement it and show it off in the class? Well, you have other courses to be mindful of. But yeah, so that's usually a stretch, right? So that's the tough one, right? Really thinking about, because you need to think about it from all discussed perspectives that we cover in the course to some extent. There's still a report attached to it, but the report can be smaller for this one. I didn't mention this before. Should have mentioned it before.
Also, if the way we do the conceptualizing, could that also be a team effort? Or should
That's
it
a
be
good idea.
individual?
Yeah, no, I don't see, we can scale it, right? So I don't see any problem there. Like, if the game is correspondingly big, then it's no problem. Why not? Of course. I didn't think about it, but it's absolutely sensible. Sure, no problem. If you find someone you want to pair with. But this can develop over the course. I just want to get a gauge, because if everyone jumps on this one, well, then I don't need to discuss those ones anymore. If conversely, so then we're kind of out of this. All right. Well, a lot of talking on my side, a lot of fast talking. So next week I'll hand out tomatoes. Every time I talk too fast, you just throw one of them. So I get a signal there to slow down. Yeah, that's my disease, so you need to work on me. So tell me if I'm too fast, please. Any questions on your part? Who's opting out without being able to opt out? No questions? Okay. Right. Okay. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't want to add much more at this stage. So next week I'll give a full session on the introduction to serious games and talk about a bit of history, what you can do. What I can ask you to do, though, is once you sign up to the system, again, I'll send a Blackboard notice just after the session. Please have, I need to mention this. Here's the wiki page, right, the main homepage. There's another page called Introductory Resources. And if you're feeling inclined, please have a look at this. It's actually quite a nice overview. I'll introduce more and more of those resources over time in different pages for different issues and purposes. For example, for how to analyze papers, we get to this point, because again, but for this iteration, it's just about what are serious games really, so a bit of a background. In fact, that's nearly enough to know about the principles of serious games. Some interesting ones about propaganda games, we talk about those more. This can also be a topic that someone specializes on. Get to that later. The principles of serious games. So some of you were asking, okay, what are the components we need to think about? This is really in here. It's a very high-level overview and a very detailed, well-dated one. You will quickly learn that there's a lot of older literature on serious games, because it's a very traditional topic already. It's quite an established topic. Some example of serious games. Some of them are still existent, some are not. And some are partially working, so the webpage works, but the game doesn't. But they have been quite influential. That's why they're listed here. But there are, of course, a large number of further games we can talk about. And perhaps something, if you have the time, try to take those one or two of those quizzes there. Again, nothing is required here. But they are basically just to figure out what kind of player you are. Right? So that's where the gameplay comes back into it. Because serious games is not, there's no silver bullet. There's no one-size-fits-all. Like in CAPS, for example. Serious games, it's not. You actually need to accommodate different personality types. So you can do that as well. You can talk about this. We'll talk about it, of course, also a bit more in the context of serious games, what kind of tests there are and how we can assess and accommodate different player types. So that would be nice if you could do this. But of course, you will need to await my approval to your sign up to this site. Cool. I think that's it. I'll leave it there. Right? So I talk in double the speed. So I only need 1 hour. So it's lucky for you. And we meet next week 12:15 again here. And you're fine. You don't need laptops at this stage. You have your own means of taking notes, I suspect. And then we go from there. Everything should be streamed. I usually, once I get back to the office, I put the stream into the playlist. So if it's not there immediately, bear with me. It may also be a day later, but generally it appears eventually.